Okay, folks, so what we're going to be dealing with today is actually what Photoshop was made for, and that is for touching photos. So it's like what we learned about last time. We had the selection elements to be able to select things and do things with them. Today we're actually going to be dealing with retouching. So a lot of times it's like Photoshop is made for making things, taking out things, basically making things a whole lot like better, I should say. But what we're going to be dealing with are some tools, and actually are going to lead you into an area that actually is very dangerous. In the world of like portrait photography per se, we find that there's a lot of times where it's like some people perceive themselves as like not being beautiful or being not being like flawless, and I like to attribute that to Photoshop because what it does is it allows to take things out. And a lot of times when you see like models in particular magazines, you know, they are not that perfect. Okay, they do have flaws, just like every single one of us has little blemishes here and there. And it's like their skin is not actually just this perfect like thing. I mean, that's just where that makes us unique in that sense. So what retouchers do is they actually go through and they take out little blemishes like that. So if any of you had your senior photos taken, you may have had your photos taken, and then when you get the photos back, you find out, oh, I have no blemishes. There's nothing there. And it's like, it kind of makes you look much better about yourself, right? So that is what Photoshop is for. That's what it's going to be made for. So I'm going to show you some few of the retouching tools per se that you're going to possibly be using. And I'm going to have to apologize to this young girl because basically we're going to make all kinds of like changes to her. So it's kind of like we're going to kind of like work with her right here. So what I have here is I went ahead and added little blemishes to her face just because she didn't have any, so it must have been retouched prior to that. So we're going to kind of like use this as kind of like this little template that we're going to be utilizing. So I'm going to like zoom in on just to see some of these blemishes that I've created in this particular portrait. So what we're going to do, I'm going to direct your attention down to in the toolbox. You're going to look for this like looks like a little band-aid type icon. When you click and hold on it, you've got a number of different tools that you can utilize. One is the spot healing brush tool. One is called the remove tool. The one is called healing brush tool, patch tool, content aware move tool, and the red eye tool. The red eye one I'm just going to actually just talk about because that really is a tool that is not used very often. Mostly because when you see red eye, this pertains to like older photos that when a picture is taken, the light kind of hits the eye in a particular way that actually creates this kind of like red glare in it. And that's where you got this red eye, the infamous red eye that when you had pictures taken. Nowadays, when that picture is taken, it is automatically taken out by the software within the cameras that are taking out. So it's like you don't see that much anymore. But when you have older photos, that most likely you have those. And this red eye tool is simply just go ahead and choose it, click on the red eye or red, and it will be gone. It's that easy of a tool. But I'm going to direct your attention up to the spot healing brush tool. And if you notice that, it comes with a brush. If you're seeing your brush look like a crosshair, that means your caps lock is on. So I'm going to make sure that that is off. And I want to take out some of these blemishes. So what I'm going to do is I can adjust the brush size to any size I want using the bracket keys. And I just put my brush over it, making sure it goes, clears it a lot. And just click. And gone. Same thing can be done for all these. I can go through. Click, click, click. Gone. Now that's how it is. So it's a very easy tool. It's much like the, very easy, can take things out. But what it does is it looks at the textures around it and tries to make an educated guess as far as what the texture is going to be that's in it. So I'm going to undo a few times so I can get back to my original portrait here. I'm going to skip over Remove Tool. I'm going to go to the Healing Brush tool. Since these two are very much tied together, I'm going to go to your Healing Brush tool. Now, what is the Healing Brush? Well, if you remember the Clone Stamp tool, when we retouched that one photo, the torn photo, the Clone Stamp tool, or the Healing Brush tool, acts very much like the Clone Stamp tool, with a slight difference. So it's the same thing, the same procedure actually goes about when you are using this. Basically, you're holding down the Alt key to create or choose a texture that you want, not necessarily the color. You're going to look for the texture. So it's like if I look over here, I want a texture that's very close to the blemish here, and I'm going to go ahead and just click once, and I'm going to let go of everything. I'm going to move my brush over into this area, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag. And if you notice, when I do that, you'll notice that little crosshair kind of shows up, because that's the texture that's being brought up. But it's only looking at texture. It's not necessarily looking at the color that's being incorporated here. So I have to choose every time that I want to use this. So a lot of times this actually is a much more preferred tool than the actual spot healing brush in some senses. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and undo that back to where I began. All right, so that's the healing brush tool. The patch tool is kind of like this morphed version of the lasso tool with a retouching tool. So what the patch tool does is first you have to select what you want to change. So if I want to hide this blemish, I just make a circle around it, and then when I let go, you'll notice that it creates a circle with this. If I move my cursor inside it, you'll notice that the cursor has this little patch icon with an arrow kind of like pointing over to the side. But what I can do is I can go ahead and click, hold, and drag and choose an area and let go, and that will basically just replace it with that texture. So same things can be said if I go ahead and make this, go up here, choose that. I can even let's go ahead and kind of like distort her a little bit. If I go up here, there, we just took her mouth out. So very, very interesting to be able to do that. All right, so I'm going to go undo a little bit so I can go back. Okay, so that is the patch tool. Okay, I'm going to come back up to the remove tool, because this is actually a very interesting tool too when you're having to remove certain things. Now, the remove tool actually is a part of what Photoshop has incorporated in it is the whole AI function. So it'll try and make a guess as far as what you want, how you wanting to remove, or what you wanted to remove. So it's like if I were to say I want to remove this mouth per se, I'd just basically paint over the mouth, making sure that there is no touch of it there, and I just basically it'll remove it. So I could do that with their nose. I could do that with their eye. Just with the remove tool. Kind of crazy. Alright, so basically I can remove all our features just by using the remove tool. Okay. Now I'll undo that a few times to go back. Alright. So that is that. Now, sometimes what we is, again, when you're dealing with editors that, magazine editors take a picture or whatever, they will go ahead and tell, okay, can you make your eye just a little bit bigger on this side? Can you make the waist a little bit smaller? Can you make the butt bigger? All that kind of stuff that's going to kind of like change the model's appearance. Okay, so what we're going to do actually is a little tool that's not in the toolbox, but more or less up in the menu. If I go up to Filter and I go to Liquify, this is where the dangerous portion of it comes into play. So with this, if you notice, there's a line of tools over the side, and there's a line of palettes over on this side. So what this actually is more or less a separate program to Photoshop, but it's a kind of like a plugin. It works in its own type of environment. But what it does use is like Adobe's face aware technology. So what it does is it recognizes, and it already has recognized, that there's a face in this portrait. And it's recognized that as face 1. And looks like face 2 is also in there too somewhere, but I'm not sure where. But if you choose face 1, you can see that what it's doing is it's like you select the eyes and you kind of make adjustments here and there. Alright, so let's see. Okay, I want to find out where that is here. Oops, not going to do that. Alright. Okay, so we're going to reset. Hopefully this is going to change it a little bit. Oh yeah, it is. Sorry. Alright, if you notice over here, look at the eye that's over on the left side. That threw me off there because it was subtle changes is what it is. You'll notice how it's getting bigger, or it's getting, going back to the same size. Alright, or the same the other side. You make it a little bit bigger if you so want to. Like eye height, you can make it a little bit higher. Same thing here, change the height of that eye a little bit more. Eye width, you can change its width, you can change its width here, and its tilt, how it's tilted. So you can kind of really see how it's working there. If I want to move that in a little bit, I can do that. Okay, just like so. Eye distance, I could make them come together, or I can spread them apart a little bit more. Kind of crazy how it's working that way. Okay, so it does recognize an eye. It also recognizes a nose too. So nose height, can adjust the nose a little bit. The width of it. You can also adjust the mouth by how much she's smiling. Here we can give her a smile. We can make her frown a little bit more. Whatever you want to do. If you want to make her a little bit smile, you can make her upper lip a little bit bigger, make her lower lip a little bit bigger or smaller. Whatever you want to do with it. So, okay, mouth width. You can make her a little bit wider, or you can make her a little skinnier, or the height of it can be a little bit smaller. So you can adjust some of these things here if you want to. Okay. You can also deal with the face shape. So like the forehead, maybe it's like too much. Maybe you want to bring it down a little bit or make it bigger. The chin height, you can bring the chin up a little bit. You can also define the jawline. Maybe it's a little bit more pointed. Or the face width, make it a little bit skinnier. So you can change the characteristics of this face just by using this face aware technology that's incorporated within this liquify option. Okay. But that's not all. Okay, this is where it kind of gets a little bit more creepy. Because again, remember there are certain things like if an editor wants to make maybe her arm, her waist a little bit skinnier, or maybe it's like her arms a little bit skinnier, maybe bringing the jaw, the chin down a little bit more, than what the face aware technology is doing, that you can use other tools. All right, so the first one that's actually done is called the forward warp tool. And how that works is actually it's a brush that you can maintain the size or whatever. And what it can do is it can adjust certain things. So it's like if I were to, let's say, I want to make maybe the jaw a little bit more pointed, I can come out here and pull down on it. It acts more or less kind of like you're working with clay. All right. Like so. Okay. Make her like a little witchy figure. Okay. So it's like you can pull down the chin. You can pull into certain areas. If I make it a little bit bigger, maybe I go ahead and cinch in the hair a little bit more. You know, you can push little things here and there. Little adjustments are better than big adjustments. So it's like if I want to bring in this, you know, yeah, bring out our cheeks a little bit more. Okay, just like so. All right, so that is the forward warp. It actually more or less kind of like you're molding the shape or the face into what you want it to be. So some of the other ones is, you know, there's a twirl clockwise thing. If I go ahead and just make this a little bit bigger, I can go to the nose and I can twist it a little bit. So it can twist in a certain way. The pucker and bloat ones actually are great if you're trying to make certain things bigger or certain things smaller. So like if I go to the pucker tool, all right, what I can do is I'm going to bring this down quite a bit. Okay, and maybe I want to make this nose a little bit smaller. If I click that and then I click this, you're seeing that what it's doing is it's sucking all the pixels from around that brush. It is basically pulling it towards the center of that. So it acts kind of like a you know, basically a pucker tool. Now the bloat one actually acts the opposite. It'll pull away from the center. So if I like put that in here, and I think you probably know where I'm going with this, you're going to make the eyes a little bit bigger. So what you're doing is you're kind of like making it look more like anime, I guess. It's like big eyes, all right, small nose, small mouth, stuff like that. Okay, so you kind of see what works there. And I could probably take my forward warp, just kind of shift the eyes up a little bit if I so want to. You make something that looks really creepy in this photo. So, all right. So again, any of those things that you can probably do to kind of like make subtle changes to that image. Of course, you can always go down here, and if you want to make it restore to all and start over, you could hit restore all, and it will go back to the image that we had when we loaded it in. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and that will be about that for that particular image. So some of these retouching tools can kind of like help you to kind of like retouch little things here and there, little blemishes, little things throughout the whole portrait. So, all right, so I'm going to stop right there, and I will see you in the next video.